to the Mitch's Papers. Today we're going to talk about the Nova Open. Yay! Yeah, so we're back from the Nova Open. And yes, I had a great time. I really did. It's memorable. I took a road trip with my buddies, buddy Ian over here. Yeah, that's right.
Road trip.
Yeah. And we went on down and we saw massive rooms full of tables. How large in scope did you think that arena was with all those tables?
Just ridiculous. There was at least, there was over 100 games going on in just the 40K alone. I wanted to take more of a tour of the Age of Sigmar area, but just there was so much to see that, man, like Warhammer Live was up in the 40K area.
That was epic.
I mean, all the huge tables we saw were up there. I'm sure the Sigmar area had just as impressive of tables, but yeah, in the 40K area alone, there was probably 150 games going on.
Now, I have to do this caveat, I really do. If you're looking for competitive data as far as playing and who won the tournaments and everything, I humbly say this is not the channel you're going to want to watch, or this is not the episode you're going to want to watch, because
it was probably an Imperium army.
Probably.
I'm gonna give you that bit.
And it wouldn't be Tau, you think?
It's possible. Tau out of the Xenos species. Tau is pretty well played. Man, definitely the shooty.
Yeah. But we didn't play ourselves this time.
Right.
So, but we did to observe, and we're going to talk a little bit about the convention. We took some classes to better our painting skill, miniatures paintbrush. So we're going to develop that.
Well, I know you had gone to some other conventions and things, but I think for Corbin and I, this was our first. So it was really just kind of taking in the whole scope and scale and everything that there was to offer there. So that was just really cool for me, and an overwhelming experience in itself.
I've been to the Nova Open last year, and then I went to PAX Unplugged, but that's not really a tournament scene at all. Like, that's more just board games. So I was expecting some, some Warhammer, some Warmahordes, and, they did have Weird Miniatures was there, so they did double demos, and that was a little bit different. But the Nova Open, is wargaming. It's not table,
and that's the thing,
really
it's
wargaming.
Wargaming, like,
yes.
Not just 40K, not just Sigmar, like, it was X-Wing,
Shadespire,
Malifaux,
we had
Infinity,
yeah. Oh, the Infinity table.
Every time you walked into a different room, there was a different game being played, and probably 50 tables at least set up.
I think
for
the
each game.
passion for each one of those games were like palpable. Like, you could feel the energy going through there. I mean, so much so that the heat seemed to radiate through the entire place. I mean,
there was bodies. There was some body heat.
There was some body heat.
Thankfully, not a lot of the body odor, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, that was.
Maybe it's because it was a charitable event, but a lot of the horror stories that I had heard going into conventions definitely didn't turn out to be true in this case.
Yeah, I think we were lucky.
Yes, because I know I was sweating. Because of the bodies.
Yeah, so that's something. So if you're going to go to the Nova Open, I recommend you wear some shorts. Because I wore pants and I was dying.
A good deodorant. 24-hour protection.
I mean, yeah, these convention rules, right? The convention rules.
Especially if you're a big fella like, Rob and myself. I'm sure Corbin was fine. He, passes heat.
I don't know. It's heresy. People should sweat. Anyway, that's jealousy, not heresy. No, I need to sweat less.
Yes.
So what do you think of the overall scope of it? Was it large enough, too large? Was it too many people, too few people?
I thought it was very cool. I thought that the vendor area, like the actual like merchandising type of thing, I was a little unimpressed with that, honestly.
Really?
The gaming portion and the amount of, especially the painting. You don't really hear of Nova Open when you talk about like painting accolades or things that is like, oh, I won a Nova Open gold or
coin.
Something like that. But really, you would not have guessed it by the quality of the painting that was in the competition.
I mean, some were epic, like
Yeah,
beyond the beyond.
There was, I mean, Vince had a piece in there that was just, it blew my mind. And honestly, I even missed half the story because I'm just staring at all the detail. I kind of missed the forest for the trees, as it were.
Right.
Like, I didn't really get the overall picture because I'm just looking at how much he packed in there. But, you know, there was a lot of guys. Sam from...
Sam Lentz, yeah.
Yeah, it's Sam Lenz's piece. He had some bearded orcs that obviously...
It was fun.
God, man, that hit my heart deep. Like, his piece was fantastic, but I did have to give the vote to Vince.
I mean, I gave the vote to Vince because, I mean, I love the Necromunda Bubblegum Girls. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see his.
Yeah, he had the Clan Asher, and they were just like, they were like 80s hit. Like,
Yeah.
You ever seen, what was it, Gem?
Yes.
Yes.
Gem and the Holograms?
Gem and it was like that. it was epic. Like, and you see all the details. I was fixated on that one. I think that's the one that won him the Golden Demon.
Okay. Because, see,
Yeah.
I saw the Sister of Battle in the Imperial Knight kind of penitence engine thing. Like, that's the one
The
that I
story.
truly gave him my vote for. But, like, he had a really nice set of Iron Skull's boys there as well. Like,
Yeah.
just beautiful in every way. I actually liked Sam's Iron Skull boys quite a bit better because, again, the beards just...
The beard solo for you.
And the yellow skin. They had more of a fleshful tone. It wasn't the traditional green, and that's one thing I love seeing on orcs is when people step out of that green skin. Like, I appreciate green orcs, but it's always nice to see a different interpretation on them.
Yours are red, right?
My Age of Sigmar orcs are red.
That's pretty cool.
And my Gordrak is going to have gray skin because I want to really work on some OSL for him, and I think the gray is going to be a great backdrop for that.
All right. All right, so we talked a little bit about the size and scope. We talked that we didn't actually play the game, so we don't know the meta or anything like that. But we did concentrate on on all of the paintings and the painting competition. We focused in on that. We focused in, and it's just display cabinets. We have to have ours in there next year.
Yeah, that was a big thing. All three of us decided that we have 1 year to get ourselves prepared to participate in both one of the tournaments, be it Age of Sigmar or 40K, because really that's the only games we kind of play seriously. And all of us are going to enter something into the painting competition. At least one entry from each of us. And it's this next year that we're giving ourselves a chance to work on. So, current squad goals, hashtag.
Well, you know, I don't think they're going to believe me because last year I said I was going to enter one, and then, you know, time crept up on me and my airbrush kind of, that sounds like an excuse. Listen, I just wussed out. I wussed out. I didn't do it. And
it's a scary thing, man, because it's really like whenever you're in your friends, you kind of get in that feedback loop of like, hey, I did this, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I like what you did here. Like, they kind of gloss over the parts that you need to work on and focus on the things you did well, type of thing. It's not that they're being dishonest. They're just focusing on the positive because they like you and they like your painting because of that.
Right.
Most of us are just happy we get anything painted at all.
Yep. Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm definitely extremely nervous to have a piece go up and be judged by someone who I have no idea who they are.
Well, Matt DiPietro, the person that does the War Machine box art, he was there. I think I walked in on his class by mistake. I was like, "Oh, it's Matt. I'm sorry," and I closed the door. And he was one of them. Another top artist. I think Sam was a judge. I think he was a judge too. There was a lot of the top artists that were judges too, because they see the Nova Open competition. And if you go to paint for competition, the Nova Open competition is the easiest one to kind of get into because you're not really competing with the other artist. What you're doing is you're competing against yourself. They're saying, okay, this is the standard that we're expecting for a bronze, for a silver, and for a gold. And if you meet that expectation across multiple artists who can actually break down your piece, and oh, I see where they put the layer, and oh, I saw where they glazed over this, and oh, I see the battle damage. They can break down all the little bits and the elements that you put in there and technical difficulty of the piece, and then they'll reward you accordingly. So it's not like one person gets the gold and everybody else, well, you're out of luck. I mean,
I gotcha.
So if you have gold quality, you're going to get gold quality. Plus, there are 3 different levels. There's a beginner's level, there's an intermediate level, and then there's the pro level that you can get into. So as far as painting competitions across the entire nation, this is the easiest one to get into and actually walk away with something if you put the effort forward.
That was a good thing to mention because I didn't know this, and so maybe other people didn't as well. Nova Open is a complete, it's a charity event. I know one of the charities was Doctor Without Borders. I want to say the other was Cancer Prevention. But don't quote me on that. That one I'm unsure of. I know one of the charities was Doctors Without Borders, which, of course, I'm a big supporter of. I found out about them, of course, through the Games Done Quick Twitch streams that go on, speed runners and things. But definitely a great organization. They've been
definitely
checked out and verified.
Absolutely, because there's so much care that needs to be delivered to second world, third world countries where they don't have the resources, and just getting rid of an infection could save somebody's life. And what's restricting you, And if you're talented, give of your time, talents, and treasures. I firmly believe in that,
Yeah, so if you have a chance, definitely go to the Nova Open. All the people that are there are volunteers. Nobody's being paid for anything, not even anyone teaching the classes that we found out. Just 100% charity, and so a very worthwhile cause. And I say if you're in the kind of Virginia, DC kind of area up there, or if you're close enough for a trip, just come on down next year for sure.
And you can meet us goopers.
Yeah.
Because we're definitely planning on being there.
You can see our entrance for firsthand and point and laugh at us for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They answered that.
Especially me, mine's going to be terrible.
Stop it.
It's going to be in the 12 and under category. I'm bringing my daughter and just giving it to her and say it's hers.
All I have to say is checkerboard. Oh, you should have a checkerboard with actually people playing checkers on it.
Oh, yeah, I'll take the freehanding class that we took and put that to work on recreating that.
Let's talk about classes. So if you've never taken a painting class, and we took one with Vince Venturella, and it was amazing for the battle damage. You really broke down how to add more to the battle damage and get dimension out of it. So first,
yes,
you have your shadow. First, actually, you have your streak, which you can definitely see with the background and just giving little hashes with bullet marks and stuff like that. Then what you do, you're going to create that shadow. And then what you can add into there is some rust marks or something that's been there for a while. And then we added on some of the so freshly done battle damage as well. And I learned how to really, because glazing for me, it was always kind of like wishy-washy.
I learned more about glazing in that short time with Vince than I did in the entirety of the YouTube videos I watched about glazing.
It was amazing.
Because you actually had someone there who had perfected his technique. I say perfected, we're not ever really perfect, but you get what I mean. He understands it, he knows how to do it, he applies it in almost everything he does. And he was actually able to answer questions and take your little hand and no, this is how you do it. And sometimes we need that. No matter what level you're at, sometimes it's nice for someone to just say, no, do it this way.
It's not a little hand.
It was fantastic. The class for me was interesting because Vince did a very good job of articulating what we were trying to do, because the setup for the class we had one of those school system overhead projectors showing.
I love it. Being my profession, that's just the way it is.
I could not see a thing he was trying to do on that.
I have to admit, there were some times where it wasn't on camera, but it's so hard to be on camera, knowing, because I do tutorials on camera where you have to keep it where, and it's so hard.
So again, he did such a good job of articulating it, though. I'm just listening to what he's saying while I'm doing the technique, and I really got the general idea. I still felt a little lost, but then after the class, I was able to go back down to the painting competition display area, and I start seeing exactly what he's talking about. I'm just and then the wheels turn, click into place, and it's I get it now.
I love that. And that's exactly what you do when you're looking at miniature painting. If you want to paint like the really high-end painters, you'll look at a piece and you'll start seeing, okay, they did a layer of this, and then they put a wash of this, and then they did a line of this, and then you start, so they did a green, a blue. You don't know exactly which color,
Right.
but then again, it doesn't really make it too much of a difference. I mean,
The
if you have
color is
a-
all preference.
that's right. So it's all your personal preference. So, but you can see the technique and which techniques are being used. And all you have to do, if you want, walk around with a little notebook and say, I'm going to try this at home. I'm going to put a layer of this. I'm going to glaze it with this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to use my own colors and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some really cool battle damage. It was one of the old boxy dreads. It was painted up like, I believe it was Blood Angels. Blood Angel box dread. And it was exactly what Vince was talking about, in that it had, the little scrape of silver, a little bit of black to thin that silver out and give it like some depth, and then on the outside, just whatever he was using to edge highlight,
Right.
that main color was, hitting there as, that's light hitting that top area,
And it
giving
really
it that
gives that
extra highlight.
dimension.
It really did.
It really just pops it out.
And I was like, this is something that next time I paint a vehicle or something like that, I'm really going to try and do, because it's a little bit more of a cartoonish style. Like it's the ultra realism, right? Like it's so real, it's surreal
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
It's not the style that I really like for my miniatures personally, but I definitely think it's something to try and replicate, just to have that kind of in your, I guess, repertoire of
Yeah.
techniques available to you.
And that's all about growing. It's all about expanding, and it's all about expanding that repertoire.
And so, it might be something I do on my Ultramarines, because
Yeah.
it's not an army that I do have a decent collection of Ultramarines, and they're kind of cartoony.
Works.
We'll say. Yeah.
Works. And I need to put, my Space Wolves, they're clean. They're ultra
Yeah.
clean. They're Space Wolves. They're not supposed to be ultra clean. So I'm going to add some battle damage here and there. Start moving on forward, a little scrape here, and I'm going to moderate it. Now, the practice piece that I did, I overwhelmed it. I inundated, scratch, slash, scratch, slash. What I'm going to do
Yes.
is just like one graze here, maybe 3 on a model or 4 on a model, and really concentrate on those.
But I think that was a good thing for the class, though.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely composition of those scratches are important, but I think for the class, it was actually better to go overboard, because
Practice.
it gave you as much practice in the time
Right.
you had with
Right.
the instructor as possible.
Right. That was an epic class.
Because I'll tell you, my Ultramarine looked like it had, just been rolled in the
have
mud
one.
and blown up by a frag grenade. I felt so bad for him. I left him with the miniatures that nobody wanted to paint. I felt so bad for the little guy. I orphaned him right there at Vince's class. I was like, you don't come home with me, sir. No.
And here's the thing. Last year, I took a class with Matt DiPietro, and I learned skin tones and how to
Okay.
do skin tones, because I asked him, what do you want to learn? I was like, skin tones. It's like, well, we're doing 2-brush blending, but I'll teach you some skin tones. And it was just amazing how you push the brush, bring it back. I held 2 brushes in my hand, and I was just wiping one off and feathering something out, pushing the paint back and forth, creating gradients, and it was pretty amazing. So I did a lot of skin tones on this one metal model. It was River Troll, I think it was, from Reaper Miniatures.
Okay.
So I brought it home and put it in the green stuff, strip it down, and then I redid the whole thing again. So I mean, that model that I got, him, he's gonna get stripped down, and he's gonna be done right. I'm gonna put some bullet holes in him.
for sure. Rebased for sure.
What's wrong with the square slotters? Going adjacent.
It's great. I mean, it's a Sigmar Marine for Warhammer Fantasy.
You know what? I might cut off his helmet and just sneak it into my my AOS army, as on the ground somewhere.
I'll do it. I mean, I noticed all the orc skulls you put on your Space Wolves, so.
Yeah. Oh, but I got that skulls box, and it's like, I have a large space here. Look at that large skull. There you go. It could have been an Ogoroid or something. It didn't have. It'd be an abhuman. I don't care. It was just,
There were a lot of orcs, specifically.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Just targeting that.
Yeah, and I'm not mad.
What are you talking about? Skull for the skull throw? I mean, you do have a porn army after all. I mean,
It's true. It's true.
I'm gonna see him with my minis just plucking them off. Skills for the skeleton. All right.
Just, it's going to be orcs reclaiming their brothers.
Hector, you fun guy. I missed you.
Fun guy. I see what you're doing.
Yeah. And
So the other class, obviously, was the freehanding class.
interesting. It's estaba así. Así. Well, I mean, again, this is a charitable event, so I was happy to donate to the charity to get in there. But
I do believe he said this was his first time teaching that particular subject. I'm giving the guy the benefit of the doubt.
extremely talented.
It's extremely
talented guy.
Actually, gave me a new way of thinking about freehand. That is one thing I will definitely say about the class. It kind of opened my eyes to what you can actually do with freehand. Because he showed us how he added extra folds into robes, and it's like, when I'm thinking freehand, I'm like, I gave the guy a tattoo. Like, dude, my freehand is on point today.
Right?
This guy was, he took what would actually be freehand to a whole new level in my brain and just my thought process. So big props to him for that.
But this area of location, he had access. He had access to all the great paintings that he could see, and other places are poopy because they do not exemplify my work as being perfect.
Yeah, he had a real problem with Cool Mini or Not.
Chip.
And apparently there's about 10 good artists in America.
Scared me.
Whereas Europe is just overflowing with them.
Yeah.
Which, okay.
You are no good. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like I was no good. I was no good in the class. Why am I doing in this class?
It's literally, there are hundreds of ways to paint miniatures, but they're all wrong except mine. It's kind of the attitude. It's kind of the attitude. It's like, you do flat color and then you edge highlight, and people are obsessed with edge highlighting, but you're just highlighting flat color with flat color. And it's like, well, yeah, that's how a lot of people learn. And honestly, if it's done correctly, it can look really good.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to non-metallic metal every single thing. And it's like, I'm not that big of a fan of non-metallic metal. I gotta say, I have the respect and I can appreciate the work that goes into it.
Yeah.
But again, it's like with the Battle Damage, just kind of, I don't want to say that's that cartoony style, because that actually does lend itself more towards that, again, the ultra realism. I'm just not a fan of it. It's not something that I would ever sit down and be like, this is what I want on my miniatures. Like, I want non-metallic metal, all the metals to be done like this. I actually like the true metallic metals.
I do like true metallic metals, but I'm kind of playing with them. I'm at a space where I want to make my true metallic metals and paint them in a non-metallic metal style. Therefore, I'm giving, let's say, shadows, giving a darker metallic for the shadows and a brighter metallic for all the highlights.
And see, I could see that, and even getting a couple of the different Vallejo metal colors and just kind of working your way up the
Blending
scale,
them in.
doing wet blending or two brush I can't talk.
Two brush blending.
Yeah, just working your way out there. I think that's
a non-metallic metal style,
right?
So you're just porting them over, and that's the thing about painting. You got to get skills from everywhere. You can't just say, okay, so I'm just going to dry brush. I'm just gonna. You have to use everything in your entire toolbox in order to attack a miniature to make it really look.
And I
dynamic.
guess that was the one thing that really kind of hit me the most about the class was it's just, if you're not painting the way, I felt like he was saying, if you're not painting the way that I paint,
then you're not painting.
Then you're not doing it correctly.
No.
Like, if you're painting in the heavy metal style of painting, pushed by GW, then you're just the kid by himself on the merry-go-round in my eyes.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, he was very talented, and it was just really hard to get a lot of value out of that class. But what I did get was valuable.
Yeah, I took away,
Yeah.
I think, what I could from the class, but I
Thinking
did
about
feel
adding
like
texture into a model like fur or rocks. I mean, yeah,
that
but
was okay. So I'm trying to kind of
are so
avoid.
furry.
I'm trying to kind of avoid the negatives and focusing on the negatives. But at one point, he was just completely ragging on this guy because he like dry brushed some bark to look like rocks, and it's just like, no, why don't you paint some extra texture on there and make it really look like rocks.
Is
like
that rock?
Here, let me show you. And he grabs a brush and he does like this little crosshatch thing. And he's like, there. And one of the little guys like, that's a rock. He's like, no, that's fur. Fur. Let me show you how to do rock. It's like, wait, isn't that what we were supposed to be doing the whole time? Like, it was just, I think that summed up the whole class. Guy was very talented. Lesson was very disjointed.
90% of it was talking about himself, and then
Yeah, and,
10% of it was actually learning.
and a lot about how Cool Mini or Not is a very bad place.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like
And so is GW.
by the end of that class, I
You're
felt
the
like
Imperium.
Cool Mini or Not was gonna like mug me in an alley and give me an 8.3.
I was holding Teddy Rupskin. Tell me a story, Teddy.
Show me on the mini where Cool Mini or Not touched you.
That's horrible. Okay, so I mean, it's great though. I did learn something.
Again, yeah, I actually took away a very big lesson from that class.
It kind of
And,
made me think differently.
You can add artificial texture to something, and
Like a cape.
that is a freehand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
you
is a
can
freehand.
paint. You can paint a flat cape as fur.
Mm-hmm.
That's a freehand. And much like even with the battle damage that we were learning from Vince, like doing that and creating that artificial depth
Right.
where none
Without
exists.
drilling the model, without hacking the model
Right,
itself.
that's a
creating it.
freehand.
Yeah, it's
and
freehand.
like it really broadened my horizons to think about freehand in a much different way. So for that, I'm very appreciative to him for that.
I also gained some knowledge of when, like, if you're doing some freehand, to try to draw it out first, and then try to place values of this is going to be a shadow and this is going to be a highlight, and just blobs. And even if you get messy, that's okay, because later on you're going to shape up the borders and just
Right.
define and keep defining and refining all the details of it. Also, what I learned from the class is when you are painting, you have to paint like if you were drawing with a fine tip pen or a pencil, where he actually had the brush directly at a 90-degree angle and he was drawing with it. And the reason why he could draw with it is because he wasn't using regular paint, he was using ink. And
Yes.
ink holds more body in the brush, so it'll hold more paint as you're going through. Of course, wick off the excess, but then you could continue to actually write, and you could sign your name with it. In fact, he said that try to sign your name, getting that brush control with the ink. Try to sign your name several times on a piece of paper with your brush, so this way you can get that fluid motion. So you could literally draw whatever it is. So if you're good at getting good at drawing, you can actually draw whatever it is that you want on your banner or your freehand.
And I actually, I'm going to pick up one of those long hair brushes, almost like a calligraphy brush.
He said that it was
talking.
Series 7, but it wasn't for miniatures. It was a long hair brush, and he has
Correct.
1s and 2s.
And the big thing for that was if you are doing curves, say just in the most simplistic terms, like if you're making a skull and you want that nice round edge on the skull, when you make that turn, a standard brush is basically going to die on you because the paint is kind of flowing one way, and then you're all of a sudden changing direction. That paint is not there, but that long-haired brush keeps it so you get a completely fluid turn
Yeah.
out of it. So I definitely I've seen one at my local hobby store. I think I'm going to pick one up and kind of play a little around with it.
Definitely. Your painting is garbage.
It wasn't a Winsor Newton, 2700, but
I still have mine in the case.
use
mine over.
it's enough for me to get in and just kind of beat around. Like when
Yeah.
I first got into airbrushing, I bought me a little beater airbrush because all I wanted to do is just kind of, if I can just use this for base coating, cool.
Yeah.
Once I got into it, I was like, hey, I want to start doing transitions and highlights of very fine areas. I bought me a better airbrush. And I still keep that beater around, and I use it for base coating, and I use it for spraying varnishes through, because
Nice.
I have a lot of liquid varnish. I don't have any rattle cans of it. So it works for me for that purpose.
All right, we're gonna do a transition.
Okay.
We're gonna see all the artwork, and then we're gonna come right back. Okay? So check out the artwork.
Clap was early.
Wait, clap is early.
Yeah, I thought we were doing transition, so I clapped.
3, 2, 1. All right, we're back. Those were great minis.
Fantastic.
I mean, absolutely.
I'm not being sarcastic.
I mean, no.
The way we record this, it's a little strange, but they were absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely. All right, well, so if one of the coolest highlights for me was hanging out with the artist. Like, you know, hanging out. They were really chill people around, and they just came up and talked to you, had questions, they answered it. I mean, it was a really great atmosphere. I felt like, you know, you could really connect with certain artists out there, and they're not like, oh, well, we're a YouTuber, we're just gonna ignore you and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sam kind of encapsulated quite a bit of that, just getting to meet him. He's like, you know, it's cool. I get to be like a celebrity 10 days out of the year, and then I'm a shadow for the rest of my life. Because he's just doing so much. And he was a really cool guy to meet. I've been a fan of his, probably really because it was Adam who got me. He was the first videos I really started watching regularly. And of course, that was where I first was introduced to Sam when he was talking about different painting techniques. So really one of the first YouTube painters I ever watched in my miniature journey that started 3 years ago, at least the painting portion of it.
Yeah, it was him and Les Burley. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are the two that were big for me. And yeah,
And then, of course, getting to have lunch with Vince and talk about more time.
that
with
blew
him
my
for
mind.
me was
that was
fantastic.
the pinnacle. Such a chill dude, man. Like,
Yeah.
really cool dude. Like,
A little smarmy, but I like that.
yeah.
It's not that he was like rude to us or anything, but he definitely he still has his gristle about some of the GW things, and,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that in a person. Like I don't like the guys that think that like everything GW does is wonderful. Like I love the guys that you mention certain things and just all the salt starts starts rising to the surface. It's like because everybody has that. I
Yeah.
mean that's realistic. And just that was one of my favorite parts about getting to meet Vince was I got to see a bit of the salt rise to the surface on a few of the conversation topics.
It was fun. I mean, that gives you dimension. It's like doing battle damage. You have to have a lot of dimensions to be real.
It's like that's the thing. Not everything is clean and pristine.
Right.
Nothing.
Not everything. But I'll tell you, it was just amazing, and how it was humbling for me that he didn't have to hang out and talk.
No,
and
not
it
at
was
all.
just chill. It was like, whatever, let's do this, man.
Yeah, it's like
So
you
it's
guys
like
eat yet,
awesome.
and it's like no. It's like let's go eat lunch. We'll talk about this.
Blew my mind.
It's like,
Definitely
damn.
one of my heroes, man.
Yeah, no, for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So that was awesome. And then the epic ride there and home. Home was really fun. Laughed so hard, I think gave myself a headache.
Yeah, it was all thanks to the freehand teacher. We all kind of took our shot. Just as I said, man, he was so full of himself at points.
He was full of something.
Very brilliant guy, very full of himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime you meet someone like that, the average Joe's dream is to take that dude down a peg. So of course we just laughed riot all the way home.
But yeah, I mean,
Doing our impressions of the guy.
we were pretty salty there.
Yeah,
We
the
were
salt had risen
were-
to the surface. Just made a good goulash.
So overall, what do you think of thoughts about the Nova Open and conventions in general?
Cannot wait to go back to this convention in particular. Where it was held and everything. The merchandising.
Oh, there was one thing I do want to mention about the vendors.
Yes, White Metal Games.
White Metal
Much
Games.
love to these folks.
Much love to these folks. Now, I tell you, I'm going to put a picture here.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are awesome.
You will see an unboxing video coming on Rob's channel coming up. Thanks to White Metal Games.
Yes, that's right.
No,
Because
not sponsored or anything like that.
No, not
but
at all.
They really took care of both of us whenever we were shopping at their stall. So
I mean, they gave us discounts. They're really chill.
and it wasn't even just us though. It was a discount to anyone who came up there. Like it wasn't like, oh, you guys are with the miniatures paintbrush. Here, let me give you a discount. Like no, it was just
We're not that big.
we're marking stuff.
We're not
We're
big.
marking stuff down.
We're just
hey,
chill
we don't
dudes.
want to take stuff home, so here, have an additional discount.
So I bought this, right? And he's like, well, these are the big wooden pieces for your Stormcast. Why don't you throw this in there too? And he just gave me like $8 worth of casted stuff for my bases. And I'm just like,
Nice.
just because.
Yeah.
Just because. I mean, that's awesome. And that's exactly what made me go back
Yes.
and buy a ton more.
Yeah.
You know, I'll buy like $20 or something like that and then walk away, and then you treat me right, it's repeat. It's just good business.
Yeah. First time I
It's
went
just
in
good
there,
business, it's just really cool.
they sold me a $40 Nighthaunt model for $25. So I'm like, by the end of it, I'd seen everything else in the convention, and everything is just so set in price. No one's trying to show any love at the convention. It's like everything is MSRP.
I know.
No moving off of
It was rough.
MSRP.
It was rough. It was rough. But White Metal Games, they hit a home run.
Yeah, and I actually tried. I wanted to go back and buy more stuff.
Yeah.
By the end of the thing, I was like, dude, none of these other retailers
No,
here
I had to
are
go back.
offering anything that's making my palate water.
Which Night Home model did you buy?
I bought it's the Crawlock the Jailer set, which I already have, but I needed 2 more of the chain gasks that come in the box with him. Because you can have a max of 4 in a unit. I want to run a unit of 4. I didn't want to pay $40 for just those, 2 out of the 3 models in the box. So
Right.
at $25,
Yeah.
they helped me out immensely.
No brainer.
So nothing but love for White Metal Games.
No brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That was awesome.
It was.
That was
And like I
awesome.
said, I tried to go back, and by that point, it looked like, their entire stall had been ransacked.
I mean, yeah, I felt kind of guilty that I didn't get it the first round, and I had to actually think about it.
I was just really happy it was
ransacked them.
there. Because by that point, we had actually all convinced each other to enter the competition. And we all started kind of brainstorming what's Rob's competition mini. And Corbin and I are both kind of nudging him. It's like, there's an Archeon downstairs.
It is, and I wasn't going to get it for a better
I ruined
price.
the reveal.
Oh, look at that. So only those people who actually watch the video to the
Yeah.
end will actually get, Easter egg.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. Oh, boy.
I was
It's
just
a biggins.
And yeah, and when you actually picked it up, it actually made me really excited because I like your work. I think that's one reason we all kind of hang out is we all like each other's work quite a bit.
Yeah, I love your
And
your orkiness, your conversions, your checkerboard, the way everything is scraped.
everything
the way-
must have checkerboard.
I mean, it's pretty cool. And Corbin with his airbrushing, and he's so precise to the details. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, he really mulls over it until he gets it just to that level. And yeah, we all have different styles, and we
And
all
it's
help
just-
each other. And
It is probably the most epic model that GW currently has available, with the exception of maybe the Black Coach, because this is basically a vertical Black Coach.
only one entry per year.
But no, I'm very, very glad you ended up going with that choice, and I'm looking forward to seeing your progress on the channel throughout the year and in person. I'm one of the lucky few.
Yeah, man. I'm lucky to hang out with a goober like me. I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm blessed that I met these great guys, and we had a great time. And if you come down to Nova Open next year, we're going to see you there. How's that?
Definitely.
Well, if you like this video, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on the Miniatures Paintbrush.
Jazzy.